Hey everybody, I'm Jana. Thanks for checking out this video, another episode of Across the Board, and today we're going to be talking about shrink wrap, that wonderful, glorious invention that keeps everything brand spanking new, but sadly pollutes the world around us. We're going to talk about shrink wrap with Caires from HABA USA. They offered to tell me all the research that they knew about it from their job, because HABA is a German-based company that has a lot of sustainability policies in practice that they're using in their country already, and it's slowly trickling into the United States. Hooray! So I'm excited to talk with them and learn all I can about shrink wrap, and we're going to do that right now. With me today is Caires from HABA USA, and we are going to be talking shrink.
Oof. Yeah, we are.
So we're going to talk about this no matter what platform or social media outlet I'm on. When I start talking about eco-friendly gaming, someone brings up shrink wrap and what is the solution? What are we doing? Why do we need it? So let's really dig into all of that. Like, shrink wrap is the clear plastic film that keeps our games pretty, brand spanking new, and smelling like the fresh ink off of the factory floor. So what are the practicalities of shrink wrap? Like, we all know we like it. On the necessity side of it, as a publisher, why do we need it?
So there's a few reasons why we need shrink wrap, and it's from a manufacturing standpoint as well as a publisher standpoint. So this is not just in the games industry. Shrink wrap is kind of a standard in a lot of industries, and there's a few different reasons why. One of the reasons, the kind of the easiness, is cleanliness. So shrink wrap is plastic. It's a plastic coating essentially around a product, and it keeps that product safe from whatever elements or things it might deal with. So great example is water. It protects the products not 100% from water. Like, if there's a flood, like, shrink wrap's not going to do you a lot of good.
Yeah.
But like occasional splashes, high humidity, rain soaking through shipping boxes, shrink wrap actually can help quite a bit in that regard. The other thing shrink wrap helps keep, it's easier to dust shrink wrap. It's easier if, like, some sort of dirt, grime, whatever, contaminants in a shop, whatever. One of the things that people don't think about when they think about shrink wrap and like moistures and things like that, is that humidity. So we actually at HABA, we did a test run where we want to move away from shrink wrap. We absolutely want to move away from shrink wrap. We produce our games, we manufacture and assemble the games in Germany, and then we put them on a container and we ship them across an ocean. Oceans are very humid. We didn't realize this until the games arrived. We did some test shipments of products on containers to Asia, Australia, different parts of Europe, and then the UK, and then the US. We also shipped some stuff to South America. And we had high numbers of damage on products due to humidity. So without shrink wrap, the cardboard that we use in our boxes will swell. And we use 100% recycled cardboard in our game boxes. And then we use linen finish, no plastic, on our box wraps. And so, while great, sustainable, eco-friendly, doesn't use as much raw resources,
right,
they also just don't do great in humidity. So anybody who lives in a part of the world that has a very humid, you probably know what box swell is, because your games on your shelf will actually kind of bow out, and you'll see this. Let me actually grab a game. Maybe I can show this.
Yeah.
So this is a game coming at Gen Con. This is the German title. But what will happen is when you have a box the top and the bottom fit nicely together. This box is pretty new, hasn't gone through a lot in its life, because it's a sample and our house isn't very humid. But what will happen is as the humidity raises, the box will swell, and you'll end up with boxes that end up with like these sort of gaps. I'm holding it out to make it happen.
Yeah.
But you've probably seen boxes, right, that do this gap, especially if you're in like Florida or somewhere that gets a lot of rain, a lot of humidity. And that just happens. And so if you have a box without shrink wrap, well, the moisture is going to get to it. And then there's also nothing holding the box in. And so you're going to end up with box swell. One of the ways to counter that is to make thicker boxes. So Ravensburger is a great example of this. They made a commitment to go without shrink wrap in their boxes, and all game products moving forward. I think they made that commitment in 2019 or 2018.
Wow.
They have stuck with it. But they changed how they make all of their boxes. So if you go and look at a Ravensburger game right now, it is significantly thicker cardboard. And they do that because when you're doing a thicker cardboard, it's less likely to end up with that flexing from that humidity change. The other thing is that when it's thicker cardboard, it will hold itself more rigid when exposed to that humidity. And so you end up with less issues in that regard. The other thing that shrink wrap can help with is protecting from chafing, which a lot of people don't think about chafing when they think of their board games. But when you are shipping products across an ocean or a country or wherever, they often come in case packs. And so the case pack is a cardboard box, it's a cardboard shipping box that is the exact size of the however many units in that case pack of that game. So if I'm going to, usually it's 6 games. So I'm going to ship 6 copies of the key in a shipping unit. And that box is exactly the size to ship those 6 boxes. And we do that so that there's less bumping around, because when things bump around and move, they get dented and dinged and stuff like that. Well, we can't pack them in so tightly that they're not going to move at all, because then you get more damage in one, you can't get them out, and it's like a whole thing. So there is a little bit of wiggle room. Well, so when in shipping, that little bit of wiggle room will just do this for thousands of miles. And so you'll get packages. I don't have a great example of this right now because I sent all of my examples back to Germany for testing. But basically, you've probably seen this on your game shelf if you store your games vertically, especially where the high tension rub area is on a game. So like here or on this seam, or very common on the bottom of the box where you're sliding it in and out, right? Where it's sitting on the box, the cardboard shipping box, and it's going to move a little bit. It's basically going to like chafe off some of the art and some of the print. And so that paper cover is going to get damaged. And when you're shipping a product to be sold at a store, people don't like it when it arrives slightly damaged.
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially not gamers.
Yes. And so when you start talking about moving away from shrink wrap, you have to figure out how to compensate for that. So how does Ravensburger compensate it? If you look at their boxes, you'll quickly see they do UV coating and plastic coating on their new box covers.
Oh, wow.
So they went with thicker cardboard, and instead of having shrink wrap, they now just have plastic printed into the paper that they're using is like a gloss finish, or it's a finish that it's more durable because it has plastic in it to hold up to that kind of standard.
Okay.
So it's like, yes, they moved away from shrink wrap.
Yeah.
What?
That's really interesting, because when I was thinking about our conversation today, I was kind of like, just using my imagination, like what would the other solutions be? Would it actually be a feasible solution to make boxes more durable on the onset and skip the shrink wrap? So that is essentially what they have chosen to do. Shrink wrap, up until this point, has been the go-to essential for shipping board games and all sorts of things, movies and books and whatnot. What's so bad about it?
So there's shrink wrap that is actually shrink wrap, where when you expose it to heat, it actually shrinks and basically vacuum seals whatever it is you're packaging. That is like traditional classic shrink wrap. And that shrink wrap, if I'm not mixing it up, that shrink wrap is actually a byproduct of chlorine production due to science and stuff. And the thing with that shrink wrap is actually you can make it disappear. So you can actually shrink that shrink wrap so much and so quickly that it actually just becomes nothing. So that shrink wrap is consumable in like fire. You can burn it, but you end up with off gases, and that's not necessarily great, right? The other type of shrink wrap that is commonly used, which is not actually shrink wrap, would be plastic wrapping. And this is really common on DVDs, video games, decks of cards, actually a lot of decks of cards where you have the pull tab. That's a plastic like sleeve that is made to be that size, and then like there's a machine or a person that like puts the product in the sleeve, and then it wraps it like a Christmas present, and then so that is shrink wrap. We call that shrink wrap or plastic wrap, but it's not technically shrink wrap. And that plastic is a different type of plastic that, yes, when you expose it to flame, it will melt and burn, but it's not gonna like shrink on itself.
Disappear.
I mean, you can burn it just as much as you can burn anything, and it will disappear as well. But it's a different chemical base in that plastic, and so that plastic can be recycled at certain facilities because it's a similar type of plastic that you get of like plastic shopping bags or plastic shipping containers, like those plastic shipping bags that we have. That poly, I forget, I'm so bad at, there's so many words that start with poly, but it's that specific type of plastic can sometimes in some locations be recycled, whereas traditional shrink wrap, the kind that like actually shrinks, cannot be recycled because it just disappears.
Right. And to clarify, the shrink wrap that is technically recyclable is not something you could put in a one-stream recycling bin at your curb, but you could possibly collect it and take it to a center or something.
Yes. For example, a lot of places that will take plastic shopping bags will take that shrink. It's really tough to call it. We call it shrink wrap. We call it all shrink wrap canonically, but it's not. It's really tough. It's that plastic packaging, I would say, that plastic film packaging.
Yeah.
That one it's more in line and in style with that plastic shopping bag. And the only way to tell if something is shrink wrap versus that plastic film is like, how is it on the packaging? Is there that seam, you know what I mean? And it seems like it's stretched over thing, that's shrink wrap. But if it looks like it's wrapped like a Christmas package and it's got those nice little folds, I always open it on the fold because I like to unwrap Christmas presents that way. That would be the plastic film kind. That's kind of the big types of shrink wrap and what they are and like whether or not recyclable versus not, et cetera, et cetera.
So I was curious about typical shrink wraps, and I thought you might be a good person to ask because you offered to tell me about shrink wrap, all that you know. Is shrink wrap ever made from recycled plastic?
Yes, sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be. Yeah. So shrink wrap plastic, if we're talking, so we got to go back to the discussion, the two different ones. If we're going to talk about shrink wrap is a specific type of plastic that, like I said, is made off of a byproduct of a different chemical process. So you can't really make that from recycled stuff. However, the plastic film plastic, which is that clear plastic, can sometimes be made from recycled plastic. It is. Have you ever gotten those takeout containers that are clear and they're number one plastic and they're just super like flimsy and they'll crack if you look at them wrong? It's a similar. That is a more brittle plastic, but like it's a similar vein. It's a similar like that clear plastic. The problem is that once you get plastic film into that film material, it becomes a automated machine's nightmare, which is why that plastic, even though it is recyclable, is often not taken by single stream or more residential suburban recycling centers, because it gets mixed in with everything else that you're recycling, and then it gets tangled up in the machines, and that can cause problems. So facilities that will take that kind of plastic usually just take that kind of plastic, or they'll just take it in its own bin. So for example, there's a company in the Pacific Northwest called Ridwell, and they actually will collect that plastic on its own. And they actually started their company just to take that plastic.
Wow.
So it's a great story. You should look into it. They're a great little company. They're everywhere over the Pacific Northwest right now. But they specifically will take that plastic, and you have to put it in its own container. And they have it all over their website. They're constantly saying, like, please don't cross-contaminate your own stuff, because if you do that, we'll have to shut down. Like,
okay.
Because if you cross-contaminate too much in recycling, it adds a lot to their costs to filter that out, and then like having bad batches thrown out. Companies can make that plastic film from recycled plastic. There's also companies looking into making that plastic film with bioplastic.
Yeah.
Which is another type of plastic that is produced from natural resources. The problem with bioplastic is when you start getting into bioplastic is designed so that it will eventually degrade. It's made from more sustainably sourced sources, natural sources. Corn is often used. There's some other byproducts that's used. The problem with the bioplastics is it's not made to be recycled. It's made to decompose naturally in a landfill. That's its intention. But you can't necessarily take bioplastic, depending on the bioplastic, right? You can't take bioplastic and recycle it. So then you have this thing where you're like, is this plastic film that was on this DVD the recyclable kind, or was it the not recyclable kind? And so few companies are consistent and good, and like, there's no regulations on like marketing or marking what your packaging and materials, like how to dispose of it. So howtorecycle.info is a website and organization that is starting to become more prevalent, and they are allowing businesses to opt in to using their iconography, and the iconography allows the business to say, hey, the shrink wrap is recyclable at certain facilities, or this is not recyclable, throw it away. Like, because as a consumer, if you really care about that, you're not, unless it's marked by the manufacturer, like what that material is, or if that material is recyclable, you don't know.
Right.
Like, I cannot look at a plastic. I know a lot about plastic. I can't look at a plastic film and be like, oh yes, this is this type. No, I can say, is this shrink wrap? Is this plastic
it in the
film?
corner?
Yeah.
Came from corn.
Yeah. Like, I can figure out shrink wrap versus plastic film, because shrink wrap stretches.
Yeah.
It actually stretches. But I can't figure out the other one. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And the recycle errors, there is standardization in regards to recycled material. That is what that recycle symbol means. And in general, if the product that you have does not have that symbol, and your recycling facility doesn't specifically say they take that item, it is not recyclable. Anyway, so yeah, when it comes to talking about like recyclable plastic material options and manufacturers, the answer is always
maybe.
Like,
definitely. So that is the big problem with shrink wraps and plastic wraps, because they are so hard to deal with. They are essentially a one-use plastic. What is the option? Like, what have you guys tried? Now, you've tried not using anything. Well, I'm sure like you use cardboard to like ship stuff, but that didn't really work. We had humidity issues, and we had what is
chafing issues.
We can't have that. So
no.
So what are the ideas being talked about?
Well, so there's a couple different companies out there that are already moving forward in no shrink wrap for board games. And the great thing is that some of them have done it so well you don't even realize. So Ravensburger is one of those where they did a great job redoing. I'm going to bring them up a lot because they did a good job. They made a statement and they owned it, and they did it. They moved away from shrink wrap. And the way that they did that was they changed what cardboard they were using for their boxes. So the boxes themselves became more durable to compensate for that lack of plastic. In regards to humidity fluctuation, shelf wear, etc. The other thing that they did was they did change what paper type they were doing for their finishes and their printing on their box wraps, which did increase the durability of the packaging for shelf wear and chafing. So there is some in regards to, because they started doing more paper printing that has plastic in it, and it's not necessarily recyclable. The boxes themselves are no longer technically recyclable in a lot of places. Is that better than no shrink wrap? And that's another shrug. Like, a lot of people will say yes, because it's removing a single-use plastic use and making a product that is like used and there and exists. And yeah, so there's that. Other people are like, no, because they still used plastic. So, every decision that you make in this space, it's pros and cons, right? Like, depending on what you prioritize, it might be better, it might not be better. So that's Ravensburger. Some other companies have moved into using pizza boxes. So not literal pizza boxes, but it's a style of box. So there's a few different box styles that you can get. There's 2-piece boxes. That's the traditional board game box that most people know, where there's a bottom and a lid. Then there's tuck boxes. Those are most commonly known for like decks of cards.
Yeah.
And then there's pizza boxes. And pizza boxes are the boxes that you would like order a pizza in. You've probably gotten a product that has a pizza box where essentially like it opens and closes like a pizza box, but then sometimes there's like securing tabs.
Sure. Yeah,
that
like
slide in. Yeah. Animal upon animal unicorns and animal upon animal dinos we did in pizza boxes from HABA. But there's a company, is it Peaceable Kingdom? Peaceable Kingdom does not use shrink wrap on their boxes, and they use that style of box for their preschool kindergarten line. And so if you look at that cardboard, it's a more substantial cardboard. It's more akin to a corrugated cardboard similar to a pizza box. So it's lighter weight, it's thicker, and it's a little bit more structurally sound because of the way corrugated cardboard works. And then it doesn't rely on shrink wrap to stay closed due to humidity changes because of the way the box folds and tucks in on itself. It doesn't, because the cardboard is thicker and because the way it tucks in on itself, it doesn't actually have as many issues in regards to the box swell.
Yeah. Is it because it's like almost double walled? Like that's how those are structured?
Well, in some places, if you look at the boxes, if you ever get one, just look at it. Just study the box and freak out your family. In some places, like the sidewalls especially, it's actually like there's 3 layers of corrugated cardboard.
Okay.
In some places. So just because of the way they fold and wrap the boxes around. So that's an example of another way to do this. The one thing that people are still figuring out is how do we secure and close these boxes? Because one thing retailers absolutely hate is when somebody opens a box before they've bought it, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
And so, yeah. And as a consumer, you don't want somebody to have opened the box before you buy it. So how do we secure these boxes? Well, so we can do these like cardboard foldy complicated things, but people figure those out. So stickers. Everybody uses those clear plastic stickers over the thing. And in a lot of other industries, that's okay because you rip the sticker off, you get out the product, and then you ditch the rest of the packaging. The entire packaging is disposable in that situation because the product is what's inside of it. But with board gaming, the product is the packaging and the contents. So using those stickers doesn't necessarily work because people see stickers and they go, okay, I have to peel the sticker off. Have you ever tried to peel a sticker off of a board game?
You're going to have a mess. You're going to rip up your ink and...
It doesn't go great, and board gamers don't like that. So Ravensburger has kind of worked on this. Their box coating that they have that has that semi-gloss, gloss sheen depending, it's designed, and they use stickers where the stickers will peel off pretty easily. And then the sticker glue residue that's left is not too tricky to get off. But that's a consideration that you have to keep in mind. At HABA, we designed stickers that were designed so that there was like a pull tab. And so you would pull the pull tab, and then the sticker was meant to just stay there. So you've pulled the pull tab, and that part is disposable, but every other part of the sticker stays on the box. So you're not peeling it off. Is that the reality of what people did? No, because people see a sticker and they want to peel it off.
Yeah, like, I don't want that there.
Yeah. So we're still working on a solution. Other companies, like the pizza box companies, they will usually do like one sticker that holds the lid closed, like right at the main key, whatever point. And that sticker is usually in a location where it's on the bottom of the box. And it's like nobody super cares. And it's one sticker. And like, maybe it's a cute sticker. I don't know. But the other thing that you have to start talking about when you think of stickers, what are the stickers made of?
Yeah.
What glue is the sticker made with? Like, it's so rough. It's
just like another problem then.
So one experiment that we did, HABA did with our boxes, is we shipped, they shipped over 54 games without shrink wrap with some stickers. And they did a couple different stickers. And they shipped them over like they didn't put them in a container. They ended up in a container, but they didn't it wasn't like a pallet. It was like, we're going to pretend we're shipping these to you as a retailer.
Okay.
So they shipped them to us, and 1/3 of those boxes, the stickers popped because of the chafing that happened in shipping.
Oh.
The way that we had, so we were testing different types of stickers and different types of glue. This is how we tested it. And so we learned certain stickers, the glue just wouldn't hold up with the motion that the boxes just naturally would have during shipping. And it's just weird things like that you don't realize until you actually like try it. It's like, oh, this sticker is great, and it says it's super eco-friendly, and it's recyclable, and all this other stuff, and it absolutely lost tension halfway over the Atlantic. Like,
oh man.
Yeah, so it's a problem that.
So did you have like board game pieces everywhere?
No, they just the boxes didn't like pop open. The stickers just popped. So when our shipping department took them out, the sticker would be like half on or whatnot. It was more of that kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, well, how many would we have to re-sticker? And then how would this handle if we were shipping it to a retailer? And so then we were like, well, what if we ship a package of replacement stickers to retailers? So if any stickers pop, they could re-stick. And then it was like, okay, well, now there's 2 stickers on the box, like one on top of the other. And then people are already mad we're putting stickers on because they want to peel them off. And it was just like,
oh, no. So it didn't work.
That one didn't work. We canned that. But that's an example of like just kind of the weirdness that you're doing, because a lot of other industries have been approaching with this and like thinking on this and like working on this. But like their product is not the packaging.
Right. Right. The extreme option would almost be to box the box.
We do that on some products.
But that's still like, is pretty, like that requires a lot of extra material that is just to be recycled, hopefully. But it, like if it cuts out that plastic, like one use shrink wrap. Right?
Yeah, so we box some boxes. So our special edition metal 10 games, we actually put inside of a cardboard sleeve when we ship them, because otherwise they get damaged. The metal boxes will chafe against each other, and metal boxes don't chafe, they ding. And so we have to put them in protective sleeves that are cardboard boxes that are collapsible, and they do hold them together really nice, and they do solve the shipping problem, but they add a labor and materials problem when it comes to both packaging the shipment and when it comes to unpackaging the shipment, because you have to have someone manually sleeve every product and package it. And then when it arrives at the destination, you have to have somebody manually unsleeve every product to put on the store shelf. We do that with the special edition boxes. It's one of the reasons the special edition boxes cost more, actually, is because of that labor consideration.
Oh, wow.
And then the question of like, well, is it okay that you're adding more cardboard?
Yeah.
It's recyclable corrugated, but like just, it's
like you're solving a problem, but creating yet another problem and not really solving the big problem.
And I really am a big fan of the reduce, because it's reduce, reuse, recycle, right? It's one of those things where like, if we're talking about reducing the amount of impact of packaging, shrink wrap is an easy one, but how do you replace it? And how do you replace it in such a way that we're not so we're getting rid of the landfill problem, but now we're introducing a recycling thing, like something that has to be recycled. And when it would be much better if we were just not introducing something that had to go either way, recycled or landfill.
Okay. Well, one manufacturer that I've heard about, they're using paper wrapping. Like, is that something that you guys looked into yet? I'm not sure what it's like. I don't know if it's a white paper or a brown paper recycled type of thing. So there's not a lot I know about it, but I do know that for years we've been using the same roll of brown paper wrap for various things around the house, and it's food grade. So the one side's paper, the other side is wax, and this can go in the fridge and the freezer. Would something like that be a option to experiment with?
Potentially. With the wax part, that might help with the humidity problem. The labor thing is off the top of my head. This is the first time I've heard. We use paper packaging with our toy products. So this is another thing. HABA's a toy company. We do more than games, if you didn't know. I know you know, but your audience. Yeah. So we actually make and sell blocks, and we sell rattles, and we sell ball and track systems and all this other stuff. And those products aren't shrink wrapped. We don't actually shrink wrap those products. We shrink wrap our games. Those products we ship in packaging that is more meant to be disposed of when you buy the product. There's still high quality, good packaging, but like 50%, I think, just ends up getting tossed when they open the package. So those ones, we use the traditional like product tuck boxes. You know what I mean? And when we ship those, we will use paper between them to help with the chafing problem. And when we have humidity box swelling, people don't care so much on those products. Because they're just giant tuck boxes, so it kind of like the lid goes up a little bit, but that doesn't. The people buying those block sets don't really super care. Not like board gamers, The only thing I can think of is the labor cost of wrapping the boxes in the paper wrap.
Okay.
Is the only thing I can think of.
It wouldn't be something that you could streamline into the manufacturing, like. Isn't that how manufacturing works? It's just magic.
It's magic. Well, so there are definitely machines that are designed to wrap, essentially Christmas wrap stuff. The problem is we don't own any. We own a machine that's designed to shrink wrap. We have a machine. It's really cool. I've filmed it so many. Every time I go to the factory, I film this machine because it's magic to me. But basically, what happens is that people assemble the games. So like they'll be like, oh, this is my very first building site. So we put in the paper bag that has the house pieces, and then we put in the cardboard punches, and then we put in the cardboard insert that has the toy truck, and then we put in the rules, and then they put on the lid. And then they put it, all of that's on a conveyor belt system. So like a different person puts in every piece, right? And then somebody puts the lid on, and they don't even put the lid on all the way. They just put it on so it's like straight. And then it goes down the machine. And then there's like this part of the machine that just goes onto the box. And then there's another machine that like puts them all in line. And then there's another one that like it slides into a little shrink wrap baggie, and then it like cuts it, and then it shrink wraps it, and then it goes. And then they use vacuums to pick the boxes up and arrange them to put them into a shipping container box.
Mm-hmm.
And then it seals it up all on its own, and then it like slides out. And so then you end up with like 8 of these games in a nice shipping box. It's great. Anyway,
I bet you
we
spent,
don't
like,
own any machines that
20
fold
minutes
paper.
just staring at it. I know I would.
I do. I just watch. I'm like,
I love this
but-
how it's made shows.
yes, that was my favorite channel. Or the History Channel was always my favorite channel
then
before it got weird. But
You
anyway,
would have
we just
to
don't have a machine that has that.
retire that cool, amazing shrink wrap machine for a paper machine, I guess. That would.
Yeah, and I don't know what the paper machines look. I don't know the size of the footprint, because whenever you buy new machinery, you have to consider the size of your factory floor and like where it's going to go. And then there's safety regulations in regards to like, oh, around this part of the machine, no one can be. So there's like
A whole
when you
lot of
buy
consideration, yeah.
Yeah. So when you buy for safety, health regulations and things, when you buy a machine, there's like actual, like the machine manufacturer, to comply with safety regulations of the government of the country it's being sold in, have to produce documentation that says like, this is how much space the machine has to have. This is the orientation. This is like the safety zones, all this other stuff. And so layout is a consideration. So it's not always as simple as being like, just buy a new machine. Well, yes, but so that's another thing.
Yeah.
But that's a really interesting idea. I am actually gonna do some Googling to see if anybody is aware of that. We recently hired, I say we, my parent company, HABA Germany, has actually recently hired somebody who has a master's in packaging design.
Ooh.
I am
be
super
helpful.
excited. Yeah, I did a phone call with her. She is great. I am extremely excited. She and I had a whole long discussion about the sticker thing, and she was just like in the meeting, she was like this at one point, and I was like, I know. So, I'm very excited, but I will send her an email about the wax paper idea, because I like that idea. That's a good idea.
Cool. I'm glad I could share it with you.
Yeah, well, because you can even like print on it, right? Like the other side, we could do soy-based inks to print a design, and then
now it's food grade, so like it seems like a wax paper, but I'm like, well, maybe it's plastic. I don't think it is though.
Well, so it depends. So some of them are wax, some of them are plastic.
Yeah.
So a lot of modern butcher paper, depending on where you get it from, is plastic.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer. So it just depends on what it is. We do use paper bags now. I know you pointed this out in a review of some of our new products. We've moved away from using plastic as much as we can in our products, which means that if we have components that are coming from a different facility or something like that, and they need to be packaged in some way, we now use paper bags to package those, either the wax paper or just paper bags. So I thought it was really funny you were excited about that. And then it was like, we packaged in this paper bag some plastic gems. it's like, yeah.
But I did appreciate it. I really was happy to see the brown paper bag, because I'm like, another thing, I wanted to bring up 2 things, because I started a Facebook poll about what publishers or gamers would be interested in seeing from different manufacturers. And one of them said about a plastic wrap that would actually, like, if water touches it, it kind of doesn't hold up. I'm like, well, I guess that really wouldn't be, but it's supposed to be biodegradable and a bioplastic. Do you know what that is? Because I was kind of lost on that.
I believe I do. I think that's the corn-based one.
Oh, okay. Then that's really not a great option, I wouldn't think.
Well, so it isn't and isn't. Yeah, so it's bioflin. Yeah, so it's a heat shrink wrap plastic, and it is made from the petrochemical industry. Yeah. Well, and the thing that I've looked at, I've looked into this, and we actually have a report that we put out internally in regards to bioplastic and what key products HABA is shifting to use this sort of product and that kind of thing. But the problem is that that's specifically in like the products themselves. So like the ramps on our ball track toys, we're moving to a more bioplastic based plastic.
Okay.
But that's not the discussion for shrink
Right,
wrap, right? Like for
right.
packaging.
Well, something
Yeah.
else that someone brought up is like the discussion of bioplastics. Had a couple people commenting on, and one person was saying that bioplastics from corn are just as bad for the environment because of all of the farming involved in the corn. And he was saying that if you used a bioplastic from like a seashell byproduct, that would be a better option. But I don't know. Is that something that you're familiar with?
It's so it's all a discussion of upstream versus downstream. So when you start talking about corn products, corn is everybody thinks corn is both the hero and the villain. It's super interesting. So the thing with corn is that yes, it uses water to grow. It uses a good amount of water. And the other thing is that if you want to talk about, oh God, I don't want to talk about this, but if you want to talk about corn, you have to talking about our food problem.
Yeah.
And our food problem is that we spend a lot of land and water resources in the world, but specifically the US, to grow food that we actually don't use to feed people.
Right.
And that becomes a problem in other ways. If we actually took the food that was produced in this country and used it to feed people, we would have no hunger in this country. So then there's a discussion of a lot of corn that we grow, and a lot of people say corn growing is bad when we're not eating it, specifically in conversations regarding to the meat industry, which I don't want to go into at all.
That's why.
But yeah, the vast majority of corn that is grown, and the reason why people are like, we grow this corn and we never eat it, is because it's also diverted to the meat industry, and then people go into that whole thing. So
the person's commenting was like, let's not give the corn industry yet another reason to validate itself.
The other thing is seashells. Seashells are a finite resource. So yes, they're on beaches, and yes, they're pretty, and yes, we have them in knickknack shops. Seashells are produced by animals that live in the ocean. And there's only so many of those animals. And also when you remove seashells, depending on where you're removing them from, you're removing habitats and life. You're removing habitats and housing, essentially.
I'm not exactly
from
sure,
animals.
but I actually think it's from like crustaceans, from like lobsters or something.
Oh,
so it'd be like a
lobster shells.
Lobster shell, yeah, like a dead.
So if you really want to get depressed, look into the fishing industry and the crabbing industry's current situation, which is there's a shortage of fish and crabs because they're running out of habitats and they're being overfished, and also they're being boiled alive in our oceans right now because of the massive heat waves. If you want to be super depressed, just look up boiled alive sea animals, Pacific Northwest heat dome, because that's a fun thing we dealt with. Also, the Gulf of Mexico recently, with the ocean being literally on fire. There's hundreds of thousands of dead sea animals wiping up.
So let's just leave the sea creatures.
Let's just not talk about that.
I think that's a good idea.
It's one of those things where, like, I think the best thing to talk about is just stop using shrink wrap in whatever way that you're going to do it. I don't think the answer is finding a new type of shrink wrap. The shrink wrap that we have is actually, considering where it comes from, it's upstream is actually very not good, but considering it's made from a byproduct, it's the downstream that's the problem. So if we can figure out the downstream, or just figure out a solution that doesn't use shrink wrap at all, that would be the ideal. I had to do a report in 2019 in regards to what competitors were not using shrink wrap, and I went to the friendly local game store in town, and I managed to find 23 different publishers that had products that did not have shrink wrap on them. So granted, this was Guardian Games, which is a very large game store, but I was able to do that. And actually, the majority of those products were in the family kids section.
Okay, so do you have a ballpark of like how many different publishers would have been represented at that game store? Just for
in total?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, all of them.
Okay. So
Guardian is massive.
A snapshot of the entire gaming industry.
It's traditionally a consumer expectation and a retailer expectation, but only at that adult level. So many children and family products outside of board gaming don't come with shrink wrap. A lot of toy packaging and that kind of stuff, they come in that tuck box, pizza box style where there's like a single sticker holding it closed, right? And so when it comes to games being manufactured for that target audience, it's actually pretty acceptable to have a product like that that doesn't have shrink wrap. So I think that's why when I did that study, I found more family kids targeting products that were like that. Whereas with the adult products, where we start getting into those specialty, because it's a specialty hobby, specialty board game boxes that are bigger and more robust and pretty, that shrink wrap is definitely being used partially as an integrity boost for that product and shipping. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, how are you going to ship Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion? But that's a very heavy box. It's a big box, and so it's got a lot of stuff in it. So how do you
protect it?
How do you protect it? And if you look at Gloomhaven, the original Gloomhaven comes in its own box because it's so big to ship it and to like have it be sturdy. You had to put it in its own corrugated cardboard box. So then it didn't matter if it was shrink wrapped or not, you know? So it wasn't shrink wrapped because the shrink wrap would probably tear when the person was like moving it to a shelf. So
we're about an hour in. Would you like to touch on boxes? Okay.
I think we're gonna have to do that another time because that noise.
It's a great episode, though, in and of itself. So
I think it's really good.
All right. Sadly, I cut off my farewell to tea, and I wanted to thank them so much for coming on today, spending time with me, explaining all that they knew about shrink wrap and the possible other options there are out there. What are your thoughts about this? As a gamer, does your game have to be shrink wrapped for it to be desirable? Or are you open to other options? If you are a game manufacturer or if you are a game designer, what options are you thinking about to solve the shrink wrap problem? Let me know your thoughts all about shrink and plastic films in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.